and welcome back to Think Code and More. So today what I'm going to be doing is another Xcode video, and as you can see behind me, there's this new chair. So we had just assembled this today, and once again, after around a month, by at least June, possibly by like May 25th, I'll tell you guys why I've been unboxing these new things. So let's get into the video. Let's do this first. As you can see, we had our YouTube gradient, which was our previous project that we made, or that I made in a separate video. You guys can go check that out. But let's create a new Xcode project. Let's make it a single view app. Let's call this Onboarding YouTube. So what we are making today is a onboarding screen in iOS or Xcode. So to first show you guys, what I'll do is first let's make this a full size. Yep. And let's make a new file. Or let's make two. So Swift file. Let's call this onboarding 1. And then you guys can possibly guess the second file I'm going to make. And if you guessed it, you would have guessed onboarding 2. Now the reason I'm making these two files is because we're going to make a class for both of these onboarding view controllers. So let's first import UI kit and let's create a class of onboarding 1 subclass of UI view controller, or I might have said that wrong. UI that's what I meant to do. Controller, open close. Now that we've gotten our first class here, whoops. Now this error should go away because we have UI kit. And now I just build it and the error is away. Now let's do the same exact thing here. So let's look here. I see what I did. Controller. Let's build it now. That would kind of be awkward if I'm spelling this wrong. But let's see. While it's building, let's continue this class. Class onboarding. Let's make this O capital. Onboarding 2. Build succeeded means that error is gone, and I spelled it correctly. And I don't know why I keep on doing that, but UI view controller, and let's do open close brackets. Now that we've made these two classes, let's make a new file, and this time not a Swift file. Let's make a storyboard. So let's call this onboarding. Now this is where we'll add our look to our storyboard. We don't have to do really anything fancy, but I have some UI type tutorials, or one that I released today on how to add a gradient inside your Xcode project. So you can go check that out. I will put the link in the description for that. So let's let this load in. So now that our storyboard has loaded in, let's add in our 2 view controllers. View controller 2 have been added. Let's space them out. Make a nice UI. Let's make this thing have an orange background and label. Just dragging it in. And let's load it in. That surprisingly worked well. It actually just loaded in right then. So using this, just increase the size of this thing. And let's edit the text. So let's say, hi, this is the first onboarding screen. And let's just enter this in. Now let's just add a quick button. Let's enter it down here. It's text for the button could be, let's just say, next slide. That's good. Next slide. Don't have to really do anything. We can make this and here I'm just picking random colors. That's the tint. That really doesn't matter. Color. Let's make it purple. Now this will just have that purple background. Let's just take this, copy and paste, bring it over. Now it's purple. Let's change this to our system orange. And now let's just add a separate button for continue to main. Let's add a button wherever. Yep, that's fine. And the button text, continue to main. And now the blue doesn't really show, so let's just make it a black color. Black, that should be good. Now we can definitely tell apart these two. So let's hold Control, click this, and drag it here to the view controller, and let's just click Show. Now, when you click this, it'll go here. When you click this, we're going to do some specific stuff. So now that we have our storyboard pretty much set, let's go to our main.storyboard, and let's just add a small different thing saying that, hey, you're in the main storyboard. Increase the size of this. Label color, let's make it like whatever I just clicked. That's a type of white. System green, that's fine. And let's just make the background of this, I guess the opposite of green. Red. Not the tint, the background color. Now we have a Christmas vibe. Label, let's call this, hey. That's not the spelling of hey. You've made it to the main storyboard. Now let's just add the amount of lines that could be there, and let's center align this. Yay! So Now, let's move on to a bit of the code. Actually, before we do that, let's actually go back to our onboarding.storyboard and let's click on these two view controllers. We make sure we do this. Set the class to our onboarding 1 that we created, and this can be our onboarding 2. Now let's add our storyboard IDs, not RDs. Let's make this page 1, page 2. We will need this. And actually, since I'm adding that storyboard ID, this is a small hint to what we're about to do. We don't need that next slide button, but we still do need the continue domain. So now there should be no segues at all. Now that should be good. Now let's move on to where we're going to be in the code. So before we get into how we're actually going to show this as an onboarding screen, let's get into onboarding 1, our class, and let's just add a bit of code. So let's make a override function view did load, and now let's just put super dot view did load, and let's paste this small bit of code in here. Now to show there's an error right here, swipe left gesture. Now we have not made this yet. Now I can copy it just from here, and you guys can also read it yourself right here. Object funct swipe left gesture. Now we don't need this page exactly, but let me show you what code we actually need in here. So let's put in this code. Var VC is a UI view controller, we're defining it as that. VC is now equal to self.storyboard.instantiate view controller, which is an important line that we would have to remember whenever making a onboarding storyboard. With identifier page 2, that's why we had set for that second view controller, page 2, the storyboard identifier, and then present with the animation that it automatically has. Now, let's do pretty much the same exact thing inside onboarding 2, but we're not going to swipe left. We are going to swipe right. Override func view did load, super dot view did load. Now let's add in this small bit, and let's name this swipe right. Gesture recognizer, swipe, it will say right here. And now we will do swipe right here, swipe right here, and right here. Let's change this to right. And now, once we go over here, let's copy this same exact function, call this swipe right gesture, and let's make this go to page 1. So what this is doing is that whenever you swipe left, when you're on the page 1, you go to the next one, page 2. And whenever you're on page 2 and you swipe right, you go back to page 1. So it's a small little feature you would probably want to add. And now inside onboarding 2, if you guys remember, we had set that small button there. Now let's go to onboarding storyboard, and let's close everything out on the side, and let's open up number 2, keep this button selected, and let's add another view on the side. And now let's make this onboarding 2 because the button is on number 2. Click the button. Now we are over here. Now let's make a action for this button. Now when we click this, make sure it's an action. Let's do continue BTN, which would stand for button, obviously. Now, let's copy in this code. So let's grab in our code that we're going to copy. Or before we do that, let's just go here. Let's go to our main storyboard. Here, it'll open here. That's fine. And what we're going to want to do is open up this attributes inspector and wait for this to load in. And because this is a bit jammed, okay. Let's go here to our view controller, our storyboard ID. Let's set this to main VC, main view controller, if that were to make sense. So close this bit out and let's bring this out and go to our onboarding onboarding 2. Now that we've set that swipe right stuff, in our continue button that we've already set, let's put in this small bit of code. Okay, we do not need that bit anymore. Now just to read it to you guys, this is let main storyboard, so we're making a variable for main storyboard, and that main VC equal that storyboard, and then we want to present that view controller and animate it, but from that storyboard. Now, if you were to run this, well, right now it technically would not show us the actual onboarding yet because we actually have to set that. So now let's go into our scene delegate. Here's where we have to put some more so specific code for it to actually let us show that view controller. So inside our scene delegate, or if you don't have a scene delegate in your project, let's put it in your app delegate. Now this might vary for any AR projects, but we can see. So let's put in this code. Let is second time, user defaults, for key is second time. And now we're making 2 variables for our launched or onboarding and main storyboard. Now we're defining the variable VC. Now, if the second time, or if it is the second time that you're opening the app, just go straight to the main storyboard. But if it's not the second time, or else, then go to page 1 on the onboarding screen. Then use default says standard true for a second time, and then window for displaying the actual thing. Now I'm going to run this two times to show you guys. The first time when we run it, it should pop up right about here. Yep. And it's going to make us go to our orange screen, which was where we could also swipe and really show our onboarding screen. As you can see right here, it's a bit hard to swipe on simulator, but it is possible. Now, once you're in simulator, it took a bit of time for me, but I swiped. Now, if I were to swipe left, it would go back. But meanwhile, we can click continue to main, and now, hey, you've made it to the main storyboard. Now, there probably is a way for this to not show like this in iOS 13, but I can get to that in another video. So, let me show you guys this when you run it the next time. And all we have to do for that, go like this on the simulator. From here, kill the app, click it again, and now, while it's loading in, it should bring us straight to our main view controller, which was the red one. And here it is. Hey, you've made it to the main storyboard. So let's move on to the outro. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more videos about iOS development on my channel. And I will put my video link of where I showed how to add gradients inside the description. So, bye.